Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Max AC channel. To celebrate this spooky season, for the month of October, we will be making recipes that will surely be frightening and delicious. I recently found this book called the Necronomnomnom, where apparently we can summon some delectable creatures from the H.P. Lovecraft mythos. For this episode, we will be making a relatively simple recipe, the fishes from outside. This recipe requires a bit more ingredients than previous ones on this channel. Specifically, you will need 13 ingredients. You will need 2 large whole snapper fish, clean and gutted. As a substitute, you could use tilapia. They have a pretty similar flavor, though snapper is a bit sweeter. Then for seasoning, you will also need some garlic cloves, some salt, some cumin, some ground coriander, some black pepper, and some ground sumac. For substitute for the sumac, you could use Za'atar seasoning, or you could use lemon pepper seasoning mixed with paprika for color. I will be using both since I have them. Then for stuffing and surrounding the fish, you will need some chopped fresh dill, some bell peppers, some tomatoes, and some red onions. You will also need some olive oil and some lemon. In terms of prep, first preheat the oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Then while we wait, we'll prepare the vegetables by cutting them up into rounds. To cut the bell peppers, first cut the top off and then remove the core by cutting around it. Then cut the bell pepper into rings. For the leftover top and bottom parts, dice it up and put it in a bowl. These will be used for stuffing the fish. Similarly, cut the tomatoes into circles and dice the leftovers as well. Then cut the red onions in a similar fashion. You will also want to chop up some dill and throw it in with the chopped up vegetables. In addition, you will also want to mince up some garlic now. Once that's done, you want to grab your fish and pat it dry. And then with a knife, make a slit on each side of the fish. If you're having trouble cutting, I recommend sharpening your knife. If you don't have a sharpener, one trick that I've learned is to use the underneath of a ceramic plate and use that to sharpen it. I'd recommend making more passes with the knife if you're actually sharpening it, but I only needed to sharpen it a little bit. Also, we need to cut into the stomach, which will dull the knife anyways, so make sure to have your knife as sharp as possible before doing this step. Once the cutting is done, mix some salt with the garlic cloves and stuff the slits and coat the insides with this mix. Next, we'll mix together the spice mix by combining the cumin, coriander, salt, pepper, and sumac, or substitutes. Once that's ready, use about 3/4 of it to season both sides of each fish, pushing the spices into the slits and on the insides as well. Next, grab your sheet pan and lightly oil it. Then, grab your fish and take your vegetable mix and stuff as much as possible into the fish. Don't worry if you can't get all of it in. Then, grab your vegetable circles and surround the fish. And season them with the remaining spice mix and some more salt as well. Then, drizzle everything with more olive oil. Your oven should be ready by now, so when everything's ready, place the baking sheet on the lower rack of the oven and roast for 25 minutes until the fish flakes. Once that's done, you'll want to transfer the fish to a serving platter and squeeze some lemon juice all over it. And with that, your fishes from outside are ready to eat. So with this book, the Necronomnomnom, I actually bought it mainly for this dish. I had bought some whole fish that I was going to use for an episode for this show, but I never got around to looking for a recipe to make something with them. But when I found this book, the first page that I flipped to was actually for this recipe, so I was immediately intrigued by it. And then I thought about how the recipes in this would be fun to do for the month of October, and so I bought the book. One thing that I enjoy about this book is that it has two different versions of each recipe. One version is written in a Lovecraftian style, while the other serves as a kind of translation. For example, for this recipe, the instructions were written kind of in a poetic incantation that describes the recipe making reference to the source material, whereas the other version is more plainly written. In terms of eating this meal, one thing you want to be careful about is the bones. I find it easiest to remove the bones before serving to minimize the choking hazard. One way that I like doing this is by grabbing the tail of the fish and just pulling the bones and spine up from the meat. There are a few other bones, but that should take care of most of them. Also, this dish is apparently inspired by H.P. Lovecraft's creature called the Fisher from Outside, which is this weird, single-eyed, single-footed winged creature, which I guess kind of bears resemblance to a fish if you squint hard enough. But I definitely think it's a good substitute if you're unable to find these demon birds from deep space. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video. In the comments below, let me know how it went if you decided to make it, and let me know if there's anything you want me to make next. Like the video, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to this channel for more episodes of the Max AC channel. And remember, if you want to stay cool in the kitchen, turn your AC to the max and watch the Max AC channel. You will need some chopped fresh dill.
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.